What's up guys, welcome back. So I haven't made a Spanish video in a while and I wanted to talk about that today. I wanted to give you guys 5 tips in which you can go from 0 to fluent in under a year. I would say by month 6 I was pretty fluent. I was at a pretty solid B1 level, and these last 6 months it's a little frustrating because I've worked really hard on it and my comprehension is a lot better, but it's more like I have a better understanding but I haven't moved up quite as much. I saw a lot more progress in the beginning than the last 6 months that I've been working. However, I can confidently say that I'm a very fluent Spanish speaker now, which you will see by the end of this video. I have 2 playlists in Spanish. One of them is how I got fluent in a year, and the other ones that are just videos that I do in Spanish. I'll put them in the description and I'll pin a comment so you guys can check those out. But if you just go on my channel, you should be able to find a playlist as well. All right, bye. So I'm gonna make this video in both English and Spanish so you guys can use it to kind of compare where your level is, and you can use the subtitles as a way for you to practice your vocabulary while also practicing your listening when I'm speaking in Spanish. I personally have gotten to a B2 level in the span of 1 year. I would say by month 3 I could have pretty good basic conversations. By month 6 I was at a pretty good B1 level, and then the last 6 months I worked very hard. Now I'm very solidly in a B2 level, although I would say the difference between B2 and B1 isn't quite like, the progress isn't as noticeable. So because I didn't take a lot of lessons, I had a lot of holes in my knowledge, and these last few months getting to level B2, I've pretty much solidified those holes. There's definitely diminishing returns as you get more into a language, where the more time you put into it, less progress that you'll see. However, once you get to a B1 level, you're going to be enjoying what you're doing because you're going to be able to actually apply the language in real life, and I think that's what everybody's goal is anyways. Cuando ves que hay videos que dicen cómo aprendí español con fluidez en un mes o algo así, todo son mentiras, porque siempre los videos se hacen en inglés y yo soy como una persona que muéstrame las pruebas. Si estás diciendo que puedes hablar con fluidez, muéstrame las pruebas, y la verdad no he podido encontrar videos que muestra el progreso honestamente. Este canal es muy bueno. Mike Ben, él me escribió y la verdad él está aprendiendo en su propio país, pero él habla muy bien y su progreso para mí es muy honesto y más parecido a la realidad. En mi opinión, tú puedes hablar con fluidez después de 3 meses, pero para entender la mayoría de cosas necesitas un mínimo 1 año. Entonces vamos por los 5 tips. Número 1, no tenga miedo a cometer errores. Este es el más alto reto que he visto en mis amigos que quieren aprender español, porque en el principio siempre vas a tener miedo para cometer errores, para sonar estúpido, pero la verdad tú necesitas lograr ese reto, porque es normal cometer errores y esto es la única manera para aprender esta lengua. Pero cuando cometes estos errores es necesario corregirlos inmediatamente para que no vayas a desarrollar malos hábitos. Incluso yo ahora todavía cometo errores con los sexos, con las conjugaciones, a veces con el pasado, pero este es normal. Por lo menos yo puedo entender todo lo que la gente me está diciendo y puedo expresarme en cualquier forma que quiero sin usar un diccionario. Ten paciencia. La verdad, los nativos son alentadores cuando un extranjero está aprendiendo esa lengua, te lo juro. Número 2, céntrate en un problema a vez, or focus on one problem at a time. I think everybody is different. However, I think the best way to learn anything is to really understand the fundamentals and build from that. And I think the hardest part of Spanish is that there are so many rules and so many conjugations that the beginning, I feel, is actually the hardest part. My recommendation is breaking it down into parts. For example, if we were to tackle conjugations, I would tackle all the present conjugations first, learn some exceptions, and then I would tackle the future tense because those are easier. Then I will tackle the past tense and both of them and try to understand what are the differences between the two. And then number 4, I would tackle subjunctive, because subjunctive is like its whole entire beast and subject on its own. Also in the beginning, I went very heavy on vocabulary. I would say for the first 6 months, I spent quite a bit of time almost every day studying flashcards on Anki. Anki is a really good app. You can download it on Apple or Android. And I would recommend actually making your own deck instead of getting a pre-made one, because if you got a pre-made one. I just think it's not quite as effective as if you were to hear a word used in real time and then you were to write it down. And I think the process of writing it down and seeing it over again after hearing it helps contextualize it in your brain. After 6 months, I realized I can speak and I could write pretty well, but my listening was actually pretty terrible. I couldn't understand a lot of people. So I focused the last 6 months on just talking to as many people as I can, watching a lot of TV, listening to a lot of music. I went out with that Venezuelan girl and we only spoke Spanish for essentially 2 months. Realized that Spanish is a very big language and it's very hard to really conquer it honestly in a year. Like even now, I'm nowhere close to being a master. I would say I'm above average, but in order for me to really master the language, I think I would need a couple more years. Go into that with that mindset so you don't have any crazy expectations. As long as you work a little bit every day, you're gonna get to where you wanna go. Número 3, ten paciencia. La verdad es difícil para medir tu progreso en como una semana o 2 semanas, pero después 1 mes, 3 meses, 6 meses, 1 año, tú vas a ver que has progresado muchísimo. Usa mis videos para inspirarte o para medirte en tu progreso, porque yo comencé de cero y ahora puedo hablar más o menos bien. Soy muy orgulloso en mi progreso de español y he visto que esta habilidad me ha abierto muchas oportunidades y experiencias en este país. En la mitad, cuando logres a B1, te prometo que te va a frustrar con tu progreso. Porque cuando estás en B1, tu progreso progresa muy despacio o es más difícil para es más difícil para decir o como medir tu progreso, pero confía en tú mismo que estás progresando si estás haciendo algo nuevo cada día. También es un poco difícil para encontrar las ganas para aprender más, porque felicitaciones, ya lograste algunos metas y la verdad en este tiempo puedes hablar más o menos bien y te vas a sentir cómodo. Pero quiero que sigas en tu viaje de español, porque si no lo usas, lo vas a pedir. Práctica, práctica, práctica. Y dése cuenta que para aprender un idioma nuevo necesitas mucho tiempo para aprenderlo. 1 mes, 2 meses, no, eso mentiras. Número 4, vivir con nativos or live with natives. Because of the pandemic, I actually think this is a lot more possible than people think. Most people are working at home now and most people are working remote. So I would say now is actually the perfect opportunity to live in a foreign country for a bit if you guys are able to work online and remote. So you're probably gonna be at home a lot, and if you live with locals, you could take advantage of this time to really practice your Spanish. For me, in last March, that's when the strict quarantine started, and we were in it for I think almost 3 months. Every single day, because I lived in a group of 7 people, I was able to talk to somebody new, and I just kept practicing my Spanish all the time, all the time, all the time. Now that I'm living on my own, sometimes I don't even speak Spanish throughout the day because, you know, I just get lazy or I just want to enjoy myself. But when you're living with locals, you always kind of have to turn it on, and it forces you to learn or at least practice it a little bit every day, and that's the only real way to see any progress. I was also teaching English during this period as well. I enjoyed my experience in that because I was explaining English concepts in Spanish, and because I was going back and forth between the 2 languages, I got a deeper understanding of both. I would recommend living with locals, but if you can teach English as well to Spanish students, that will help you a lot. Yeah, the point of this is that you want to have exposure, new exposure every day for at least 30 minutes. To be honest, in the beginning, I would not recommend watching TV shows and stuff like that because I don't think you can really understand a good chunk of what's going on until you reach B1. So before that, I would just focus on learning vocabulary, speaking as much as you can, and maybe doing a little bit of reading. And number 5, enjoy how you practice. You know, if you don't like working out, but you like playing basketball, go play basketball because that's a way to work out while also having fun. And I think the same idea applies to when you're trying to learn Spanish. The best exercises usually involve doing the activity with others, and I think the same applies for learning a language. You're gonna have a lot more fun when you're constantly using it with other people rather than just practicing it yourself. I would do as much talking as you can in the beginning because by doing this, you're gonna get over a lot of the humps that new learners usually have when learning Spanish. They would include like the fear of messing up, learning how to form a sentence, most common verb exceptions or how to use conjugations, expressions and sayings that are like different to each place, and reflexive verbs. That is a concept that is not in English, and after a while you get used to it in Spanish, it just becomes like a different kind of verb, but the idea is actually very confusing in the beginning. And for reflexives, I would just recommend not trying to imagine like bañarme, like I'm bathing myself. Just think of the verb bañar, or like bathe. Think of that as a reflexive. Like reflexive has its own category. So like cepillarme, bañarme, ducharme, acostarme, quedarme, all these, there's certain words that I don't see them as like reflexive, like doing it to yourself. That's what the verb is. It's it's its own separate category under verbs. I hope that made sense. The goal for, I think, most language learners is to get to a B1 level, because once you're at a B1 level, you can actually enjoy content, you can watch TV, you can understand music, you can have conversations, albeit at a fairly basic level, but I think you would be able to enjoy all of the benefits of learning a language at this time. Here are a few Netflix shows that I want to recommend. I think the best one is Monarch. It's a Mexican show, super good. Jugar con Fuego, Elite, House of Papel, or like Money Heist, El Club, 100 Días para Enamorarnos, La Bella and la Bestia, y Perdida. I think these shows are pretty good. I might make a separate video on that in the future, but who knows. As for music, I would recommend, I like Rake a lot, I like Morat, I like Bad Bunny, Race B, J Balvin. The Latin pop playlist and Baile Reggaeton playlist on Spotify are your best friends. So just play those up and yeah, listen to those. I have a few extra tips for you guys, and also kind of like philosophy things to help you in your journey, because I know these are things that frustrated me when I was learning in the beginning. Number one, speaking fluently is such a broad goal. If you go to like Reddit or people who like learning languages for a living, they like to play gatekeeper, and they're honestly pretty snooty about it. I would say if you reach a B1 level in any language, you're already considered fluent. And I know there's a crowd out there that says, no, you have to be a C1 and you have to have written a whole entire book in another language. And I'm just like, dude, this is dumb, because most people aren't trying to get to that level. And to gatekeep people, telling them that they're actually not fluent because they haven't reached this level yet, doesn't do any good, because most people don't have the time nor the motivation to like learn a language that deep. So honestly, for most people, you can get to a B1 in 3 to 6 months, and I think this is pretty much the goal to me if you want to be fluent, considered fluent. Don't worry about all those other people. B1, that's the goal. Number two, using the pronouns? Using the pronouns before the verb. So for example, for querer, yo quiero, tú quieres, él quiere. You technically don't need to use the pronoun or the noun. However, a lot of natives use it, and I use it not often, but I use it as like a rhythm thing, because Spanish is very rhythmic, and for me, in order for me to like be able to speak fluently, sometimes I need to put in the pronouns in order to like breaks in rhythm to help it flow a little better. Some snooty people will say that, oh no, you're not supposed to use these words before the verbs, but locals use it all the time. And to be honest, in the beginning, I think it's a very good help doing that, because it helps you identify how the conjugations work, and then over time you can work to getting rid of it. But I think in the beginning, if you use it, don't worry, it's totally fine. People aren't gonna give you shit for it. And if I'm being honest, a lot of Colombians don't speak proper Spanish either, and a lot of their topics, it's very hard for them to explain to you. So, you know, I would just not worry about the rules, trying to get it perfect. All you want is if you can express yourself clearly, and if you can understand what most people are saying. That's it. 1 month is not realistic. 1 week is definitely not realistic, but 3 months of good hard practice, and you're gonna be surprised with your results. Espero que estos consejos te hayan ayudado. Creo que ustedes pueden lograr tus metas. Yo creo en ustedes. Si tienes más preguntas, escribe un comentario o me puedes seguir en Instagram acá y @WesLeezy. Como siempre, gracias por ver y espero que tengan un feliz día.